Okay, so sign up soon for next year because next year it'll be from 12 to 12:15 and we'll be done. Okay, let's take a look at our weekly schedule. If we can get that on screen. Okay, this is what's coming up this week. Memorize it, please. You'll be repeating it back as you leave the room today. Also today, Rev Mitch Austin, who will be introduced shortly, will be doing a workshop this afternoon. He's sitting in the front row here. And he'll be also doing our talk today. So we'll make sure to give him the initiation. We'll all have him go between our legs and we'll paddle his behind. You didn't know what kind of you didn't know what kind of service you were coming into, did you? The Sacred Healing Service on Zoom, conducted by Karen Blakely, is coming up this coming Wednesday. That's at 6 o'clock. So if you would like to heal, please be involved in that. Save the date. Ta-da-da-da. What are you saving the date for? You are saving the date for January 20th, which also happens to be Ernest Holmes' birthday.
No, his birthday's the 21st.
I moved it. All in favor, say aye. All right, fine. Well, we're celebrating it on the 20th, and it is our 40th anniversary for the Eureka Center for Spiritual Living. It is amazing we have gone that long with a long way yet to go. So make plans to be here, please. Speaking of making plans, Alaskan Cruise is coming up, I believe, in May. There we go, May 12th through the 22nd. If you've never cruised to Alaska, I've had the good opportunity to go there twice. It is striking. It is one of the most beautiful one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Most beautiful. On our honeymoon, we went on a cruise to the Caribbean, and I was fortunate enough to get to sit down and talk with the captain who had cruised all over the world. And I said, I want to go on more cruises. I said, what are the best places as a captain that you've seen in all the cruises you've been? He said, the two best places to cruise for beauty are the fjords of Norway and the Alaskan cruise.
Except in the wintertime.
Well, yeah, the wintertime gets in the way. Our little pantry, bookstore. We are having, I usually bring the journal. I sit in the back and write down all the notes of the journal, and I forgot my journal today. But we have a journal, the Eureka Center, or the Centers for Spiritual Living puts out a journal every year. There's what it looks like. We're a little late for ordering it. So if you would like to get a journal, Michele, wherever Michele has gone, over there. Sign-up sheet is over here, $14.95. We need to have you sign up today so that we'll have the journal in time for 2024 and not for 2025. So please do that. Little Pantry. Let us continue to serve our community by providing food, non-perishable, of course, to the Little Pantry. Please make your donations, put them outside or on Mondays from noon to 4. Walk in Awe is here to help out with that. And I think that's it for that. I have something here he's supposed to do. Was somebody else say something? Oh, there it is. Make a wish. Doug, I'm sorry. Would you come out here and come up here and speak about that?
Well, this was back in October. I think I stood up here and talked about this, but it wasn't until Friday that I actually met with this family and the Make-A-Wish volunteer. So I know more about it now, and it looks like it'll come to fruition. So a variety of people signed up, and I still have your names, and I might come around and talk to you individually. But it'll be January when we get involved. So anyway, I'm going to come around and find the people who signed up and talk to you.
And the list is still here.
Is the list still there? Yeah, if you'd put your phone number there. I have some of them.
A minute to explain
what Make-A-Wish is?
Well,
What the event is. What we're doing.
Well, so this is the granting a wish to a family that has a disabled child, and that's what Make-A-Wish does in a nutshell. And this one is in Fortuna, and as a church community, we kind of volunteered to do it, so we're committed. But it's a work project at their home. It's basically to make Braden's space comfortable for him. And so it's going to take some volunteers, and we do have like a half a dozen from the sign-up sheet. So anyway, if you want to know more about it, come and talk to me.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, nothing else that I missed. So with that in mind, Tiffany, would you mind coming up? You have to
You're
go.
in trouble now.
I know, you have to go. You have to go through the final initiation to actually be part here.
I'm glad I wore something that wasn't awful today. I'm kind of late.
So every month we have a member of the month. Actually, I don't determine it. It's done by the board or the core council. And I was really fortunate last month, but you are the member of the month this month. So I will read to the congregation what we have, and then I will give you this plaque. Ever wonder who brings the beautiful flowers that grace our building? Tiffany Hart is a newer member who jumped right into serving us with her talents, creating amazing bouquets and setting them around with hardly a word. We're grateful for her generosity of spirit and talent. Thank you, Tiffany. We appreciate you. So that's going to go on the wall. As I found out, I took mine home. Don't do that. You, however, do get your own copy. So that is for you. And thank you for playing with us. I'm so grateful. Rick came up to me and says, "Do you know where your frame went?" I go, "Yeah, it's in my room." He goes, "No, it's supposed to be here." Okay, with that in mind, we're going to introduce Michele, who will do our contemplative, well, our theme actually this month is the new artwork for this month, Celebrate. Including I added a little penguin and a raccoon in there because we want to have the animals celebrate too. Angelica said, "Where's the cat?" Sorry, Angelica. Okay, with that in mind, Michele will come up and take it from here.
Okay, today's contemplative, Reverend Mitch had heaven in his title. So I went to the Science of Mind textbook and looked up heaven, and I did not count the number of times it was written in the textbook, but it was quite a few. Some of you will have to go and research that if you're interested. But I have 3 short quotes from Reverend Ernest Holmes, Dr. Ernest Holmes, in the textbook about heaven. And then we'll have a short meditation, and Jackson will play music and bring us into the main part of our service. So I invite you to just relax into your chairs and listen to these 3 quotes. There are different mental depths and heights from which we may look out upon life. That which we see comes back to us by an invariable law of attraction. Heaven is lost merely for the lack of a perception of harmony. Only that can return to heaven which was born in heaven. And since heaven is not a place, but a state of consciousness, the return must be a recognition that heaven is already within. And lastly, the practice of truth is personal to each of us. And in the long run, no one can live our life for us. To each is given what they need, and the gifts of heaven come alike to all. How we shall use these gifts is all that matters.
Softly and tenderly, Spirit is calling for you and for me. See on the portals a new day is dawning for you and for me.
And I know as we come together this morning that heaven is truly right here in our hearts, in this building, in each and every one of us. And I know that Spirit does call us to this celebration, this gathering this morning, and that the right and perfect words will be here so that everyone may hear them. Take them into their hearts and let them go out into this world. And I know that we are in the right place, the right time for this. And we are blessed that we can all come together as this one sacred whole, in person and on Zoom. And I know that this is a right and perfect service for us to all hear today, and I let it unfold in its right and perfect way. And so it is.
Come home, come home. You who are seeking, come home. Lovingly, tenderly, Spirit is calling, beloved, come home.
All right, this morning I want to invite up Karen Blakely to introduce our guest speaker.
So it's not every day that you get to introduce your significant other to the congregation. So I'm taking that liberty. Very grateful to be able to do that today. Reverend Mitch Austin was raised in the Science of Mind philosophy. He has been a Centers for Spiritual Living practitioner since 2012 and became a licensed minister through Ernest Theological Institute in 2023. Mitch has been speaking at spiritual centers since 2016, and he formed Speak, Teach, Inspire LLC, which includes spiritual counseling, the Rise and Speak Academy, and other self-improvement classes, such as the one we're going to do after service today, which is the Tame Your Inner Critic, as well as empowering communications for spiritual people and Eat, Pray, Live. Mitch is a member of the Amani Center Ministerial Council and member of the affiliated New Thought Network, as well as the creator and host of a weekly show on the New Thought Media Network called Change Your Story, Change Your Life. Yeah, it is pretty good. Mitch is a sought-after speaker, speaking at centers throughout Sacramento Valley and the Sierra Foothills. He also speaks in Kansas City, Missouri, and Louisville, Kentucky, and now here in Eureka. Mitch's calling is to help others live a more authentic, healthy, and spiritually aligned life. Please join me in giving a warm Eureka welcome to Reverend Mitch Austin.
Well, that was the best introduction ever. Well, good morning. so blessed to be with you here this morning. I love this sanctuary. Look, inspiration everywhere. We got Louise, we've got Einstein, we've got Maya, we've got Be Awesome today in the bathroom, and I've got people waving at me because you know I'm a wanderer. Okay, no, we got something. They're doing hand signals now. Okay, I have to hit.
You have to turn it on.
It's on. I see a
I just
little
want you to stay in the camera.
test. You want me to stay in the camera? Ooh. Okay. So can I go this far? Look over. Oh, hey! Yeah. It's on.
It's on?
It's on. Here you go. Check it out.
Okay, there, it should work.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, it's mute.
It's mute.
There
There we
it is.
go. God, that's great. That's my fallback line. And I even found inspiration. Am I here? Are we okay? Are we good? I even found inspiration in the bathroom. Be awesome today. Just a demonstration. There's no spot where God is not. Even in there. I'm here all day, folks. I want to thank Reverend Angelica for saying yes. I was at the conference in Asilomar, and I was talking to Karen and just met her. And I was so excited. She was in Eureka, and I'm like, I need to speak there. And she said, oh, Reverend Angelica, and I take off. And Karen thought I didn't like her after that. But I'm like trying to get a gig up here because I want to speak to you, of course. And so there's this crazy person in front of Reverend Angelica going, can I speak at your church? She doesn't know me. I'm not even a minister yet. And she had the grateful, generous heart to say yes. And so I'm so grateful for you. Thank you, Reverend Angelica. You have a winner there. Let's give her a hand. Thank you. So the genesis of today's talk was born out of a class that I took called Metaphysical Bible. And I don't know what everyone's experience is with this work, but for me, it was not a positive one. In fact, there were groups that used what was in that book to beat up my community, the LGBTQ plus community. And I didn't like it. I didn't want to know about it. I had this resistance, this pit down here. Maybe some of you can relate to that. But I also heard there was really great metaphysical food in there. And that there was these things called parables that actually taught spiritual laws. And I thought, am I gonna let some people who wounded me with this keep me from this food, this spiritual food? And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna take the class. And I learned about parables, teaching stories, and all of these spiritual laws. And there was one parable, and this is about 10 years ago, one parable I said, ooh, someday I'm gonna do a talk on this parable. And you're gonna get to hear that parable today. Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. And I wanna say, if you have some resistance to the B word, Bible, just keep a corner of your mind open, that there might be a different way to look at these stories and the kind of wisdom that's in there. I see it as a metaphysical handbook now. I love the Bible, and I never thought I would say that, especially even up on stage. So a lot's been going on the past few years. Anyone got change exhaustion? Like change. We're tired of the change. Who wants more peace, right? More peace, more connection, yes. Well, the title of today's talk is, Heaven is Here, Get Out of the Way. Right? Because the truth is, heaven is only a thought away. Because when we get rid of the anxiety, what's left? Peace. When we move past fear, what's left? Love. Or when we get through this cloud of lack, we see all of the abundance around us. And we know every major spiritual teaching has some form of all thought is creative and influential. So when we work with our mind and we get past some of its conditions and projections and storytelling, we start to see heaven right where we are, one thought away. And here's what Ernest has to say, because we're going to be working with the mind today in today's talk. And he says, we wrestle not against outward things, but against inward beliefs. The power of darkness is the power of false belief and superstition. If a person can change their inner concept, their whole life will be changed. All cause is from within, all fact forever without. All effect without. So today we're going to focus on 3 parts. We're going to focus on first looking at divine guidance, the guidance that's always coming, dropping in, taking us to our good. We're also going to look at embracing our worthiness. The good shows up, we got to let it in. We got to be a match. And we're going to look at our cup of consciousness. What's in our consciousness? As if it were a cup. It has volume. You ever say, I'm just full, I can't let one more thing in? Right? It fills up. But we got to look at what's in there. Because sometimes something will come in and it'll take us right out of our heaven. You know, for me, it's, somebody in the 15-item line at the grocery store with 18 items, and I know you have 18 because I just counted every one of them, and there I go. Or maybe you're merging onto the freeway and someone cuts you off and gives you half a peace sign. There you are, right out of your heaven. So we've got to manage. We've got to manage what's in our cup. And we're going to work with a story again today that's out of the Bible. And I love the author, Rob Bell. He wrote a book called Everything is Spiritual. But he didn't start out that way. He started out as a Christian pastor. And as he started through his evolution and spirit walk, he began to expand his vision of God. And he began to expand his understanding of spiritual principle until he got to the point where he realized everything's spiritual. He's no longer a pastor. He's actually a speaker and a author today. And here's what he says about the Bible. Many religions will tell you that the Bible is a handbook to get to heaven in the hereafter, after you leave. But Rob said it's backwards. That the Bible is a handbook to bring heaven on earth. And don't we need that now? Yes, more than ever. So you want to know what that story was 10 years ago that set me on fire? The prodigal son. Who loves the prodigal son? Any prodigal son people? Wonderful. It's been called the crowning jewel of the Bible. Ernest Holmes called it the greatest story ever told. And with your permission or without, I'm going to tell it Mitch style. We're just going to keep it lively, fun, bring some energy into it. And if you've heard of the story before, I'm going to invite you to approach it with a beginner's mind. Because the truth is, you're different. You can't step into the same stream twice. So I invite you to come into the story pretending like you've never heard it before, because you might hear something you haven't heard. And at the end, I've got a twist that some people don't talk about, the good son. So you have to tell me if you've heard this twist. Now here's the deal. Jesus could have just said what the principle was, but he used a story. He could have just said, look, you're worthy of the kingdom, it's here now, it's all yours, no matter what you've done, you're forgiven, go forth. But he didn't. In fact, what happened was the Pharisees came up to Jesus. Jesus was hanging out, the tax collectors and the people that swear and all of the fringe people. And the Pharisees are like, why are you hanging out with those people? And Jesus didn't give a direct response because at this point, everyone's looking at him. And he took it as an opportunity to have a teaching moment. And he told a story, because we live in stories, we move in stories, we think in stories. Stories have the power to get past our critical mind and into the deep spaces of our subconscious. And I think that's why parables are so powerful. So as we unpack this parable, we're going to look at the divine guidance that dropped in and how we can trust that divine guidance. But sometimes when we hear that still small voice drop in, we argue with it, don't we? I remember once I was going to go to work, and I heard, take your checkbook. And I'm like, why am I you ever wonder who you're arguing with? And I'm going, okay, I'll put my because at this point I knew. I put my checkbook in my pocket, I went to work, and that day they were selling crab feed tickets. And I had wanted these tickets for a month, and they were only taking cash or check, and they sold out that day. See, Spirit even hears the small meditations of our heart. The second thing we're going to look at in this story is the worthiness, right? If you can't let it in, you can't receive it, even if it's right there. If we don't think we're worthy, we self-sabotage, right? We start to question that good thing, that wonderful thing that shows up, looking for, well, where's the shoe gonna drop on this one, right? And then we start creating that. And then the third thing we're gonna look at is our receptivity. What's in our consciousness, right? What are we allowing to be in there that could be separating us from our experience of heaven right now, right where we are? Is there any judgment in there? Any unforgiveness that might be blocking us from our experience of heaven? So in the story, in parables, we're every character of the story. So there are three main characters. We're the forgiving father, right? Sometimes we're the bigger person who just lets stuff go. Metaphysically speaking, father in the Bible represents spirit or God. Also, there's the prodigal son, right? The one that just wants to do his own thing, that got a bright idea. Anyone ever get a bright idea? Somebody tried to talk you out of it, but you just had to do it. Metaphysically speaking, that's the idealistic mind in this story. And then there's the good son, the rule follower. Raise your hand if you're a rule follower. Any rule followers? Yeah, I knew you'd raise your hand because I said raise your hand. See? That's how it works. That's how it works. And I used to be a rule follower, and then I became the prodigal. I have so many of these people in here. So metaphysically speaking, the good son represents the pragmatic mind, the sensible thing to do, right? The logical thing to do. Now, there is a pig, a goat, and a cow. You don't have to be any of those. That's the good news. So the story starts off, there was a man who had two sons. And the youngest son comes to the father and says, look, I don't want to wait for you to die. I want my inheritance now. I got plans. I've got a vision. And the father says, well, okay, here you go. Here's 1/3. The younger son always got 1/3. Any parents in the room? A few parents in the room? Yeah, if your kid came to you and wanted like their inheritance now, wouldn't you ask, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to invest it? Are you sure this is a good idea? Father didn't say that. See, Spirit doesn't say that. Spirit just says, yes, my beloved. Yes, yes to that bright idea, no matter where it's going to go, right? And so the younger son takes his money and he leaves heaven. He leaves the father's house. So father, God or spirit, house represents consciousness in these stories. So he leaves the consciousness of spirit to go to a distant country where the customs are different, the belief systems are different, and we'll call that distant country the thinking of the world. You know that thinking? I am what I have, what I do, what others think of us. You gotta work hard, dog eat dog. And he goes to this distant country, and you know, he's young, got a pocket full of cash, goes out on the town, spends it on wine, women, and song, and then he broke. And not only is he broke, there's a famine in the country. There's no soup kitchens. There's no handouts. And the only job he can find is feeding pigs, and he's a Jew. That's the lowliest job you can have. And he's hard carob seeds, and he's so hungry. He's like, oh, I'm so hungry, I'd even eat that. Could you imagine pouring out your dog food? I'd even eat that. And then he starts beating himself up. Don't we do that when we screwed up? Man, I really blew it. What was I thinking? I've lost the sonship. And so he's having a pity party. But the Bible says something very important. It says he comes back to himself. Back to himself. Back to this higher part of his being, his soul. And he has a thought. From where? Doesn't say it in the Bible, but I'm going to say it. Out of the blue. You ever wonder where the blue is? And the thought is, well, I know I lost the sonship, but what if I could be a servant in my father's house? Servants eat good. They got bread. They got wine. And then he starts rehearsing his script. You ever do that? You have to have a hard conversation. So he's like, okay, I'm going to go there. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to see if I can be a servant in my father's house. Right? He's scripting. And then he does the most powerful thing in the story. This would not be the crowning jewel of the Bible. This would not be the greatest story ever told if he doesn't do this one thing. He takes the journey back to his father's house. And that's hard to do after you screwed up, yes? you know? And he's on the way, long walk, distant country. Maybe he wanted to turn around. You ever turn around on something? He said, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Just get talked out of it, right? And here's the thing. He doesn't even get back to the Father's house. And the Father sees him in the distance. Father, Spirit, rushes out to him to meet him. See, that's the thing. We take one step, Spirit takes two. I call that the spiritual cha-cha. Right? Doesn't even have to get to his destination because he's made the intention and he's acted upon it. And that's that secret sauce where Spirit comes out and Father throws his arms around him. Son, you have returned. And the son's like, Father, I'm so sorry. And then the Father's like, get the robe, get the shoes, my son has returned. And the son's like, if I could just be a servant. Father isn't hearing him. See, Spirit doesn't hear our shooting, our shaming, our beating up. All Spirit sees is the perfection of us, the wholeness, the worthiness, the joy of us returning back to truth, returning back to the consciousness of God, of Spirit. And he puts the ring on him. You know what the ring was in that time period? So the ring had the family insignia. He could go to the marketplace, buy a goat, a coat, the unlimited credit card, and he just squandered 1/3. No judgment, fully worthy of all the good, all the abundance. So the Father says, kill the fatted calf, we're going to have a party. Sorry, vegans, vegetarians. I know they're in here. And they go up to the house, and the good son's out in the field slaving away, and he hears a ruckus up at the house. So he goes up to the house, he runs into a servant, and he says, what's going on? And the servant says, it's a glorious day. Your brother has returned. He was lost, and now he's found. Celebrate with us. He goes, no, I'm not celebrating with you. And then the father comes in. Son, it's a glorious day. Your brother has returned. He was dead, and now he's alive. Celebrate with us. And the good son says, no, I'm not celebrating with you. I get up early. I work all day. I do everything you say. This place would fall apart without me. And you want to even give me as much as a small goat for me and my friends to enjoy? And he squandered all your money? I'm not celebrating with you. And the father says, son, I am always with you. And all that I have, remember 2/3, all that I have is yours. So I want to ask you a question. The prodigal son took 1/3, went out into the world, squandered it, but came back, open, receptive to any small good. But the good son, he's got everything else, 2/3. But in his cup of consciousness, he can't let it in, not one drop. Who squandered more? See, we think this story is about the prodigal screwing up and being forgiven, and it is. But there's another side to this. The good son is missing it too. He's got in his cup of consciousness self-righteousness, judgment, the kind of judgment. There's a difference between judgment and discernment, right? Judgment says, you did something I don't agree with, you're bad. Discernment says, you did something I don't agree with that, but you're still worthy of humanity. Right? You're still a piece of God. I may not understand your behavior, but it's a different texture to that. And we can carry that way in a way that's more in alignment with peace and understanding. Anybody know somebody got everything, can't let it drop in? Yeah, we all know somebody like that, right? So there are 3 takeaways. The first one is to trust our guidance. What if the prodigal, that thought that dropped in from the blue, what if I could be a servant in my Father's house? What if he just ignored it? Nah, you know how our mind jumps in there? Nah, that'll never work. He'll never say no. We just discount it before we even give it a chance, right? But he woke up to it, and he did it. You know, I had an experience of this dropping in from out of the blue. I was working at a very nice job with a very lovely office, a peace pole outside, a koi pond. So beautiful, it was quiet. And one day I'm sitting there very quiet and I hear, quit your job. I went, no! I can't do that. So, I ignored it. And then 2 weeks later, I hear again, I'm not crazy. I hear, quit your job. I'm like, oh no. Because here's what we know. Spirit will throw pebbles at the window until you get a brick. Anybody ever get a brick? And I saw that, and I knew that, and I went, oh, God, I have to leave this job. So I went to my partner, and I said, we know what our source is, right? So I left the job. I had a really great resume. I thought it'll be no problem. I'll go back home because I was commuting long distance, and I wasn't getting anything. Nothing. It's weird, except one thing. A friend of mine comes to my doorstep literally with a job application, and I'm awake enough to know, getting past my pragmatic mind, that it showed up for a reason. Now, it was working with boys in a residential home, and my pragmatic mind goes, well, that won't pay the bills. But I was awake enough to know it showed up for a reason. So I said yes. And there I am, first day, back of the van, in the corner, listening to rap music, going, God, please tell me it doesn't end here. And little did I know, this little nonprofit that was changing boys' lives, little ma and pa operation, had a big assignment to rewrite their program statement, re-license with the state, and they just didn't know some things. They didn't know about strategic planning and policy development and all of the things that I had. 3 months later, they made me their first HR director and corporate compliance director, and I helped save this little organization. And not only did I help save it, 6 years later, I had amassed enough money to leave and start my own business and be full-time in the ministry. I had no idea that was the plan. But when we listen, we follow it, we trust it, that's when the good stuff can show up. But what if I had stayed in my rigid, pragmatic mind? I would have missed it. Second thing we're going to talk about is worthiness. Now, the prodigal son didn't think he was worthy of the sonship, but he did believe he was worthy to be a servant in his father's house. Some small good. He moved towards some vision of small good. If we can do that in our lives, Spirit can work with that. And look, when he got the robe, when he got the ring, he didn't throw it off. He didn't say, no, don't give me the unlimited credit card. I'm bad with money. Right? He let it in. So we got to let it in, no matter what it is. You know, do you ever have somebody tell you, oh, that's such a lovely outfit, and you're like, oh, this old thing, right? Or you cook something nice, and people go, great meal. Oh, I just threw it together. Like we seem to shy away from that praise, that gift, that love sometimes, because some part of us doesn't feel that you're worthy. In this teaching, we know everything is a thought before it's a thing. That chair, this stage, everything. Who thought of you? Who thought of you? Spirit. God. And God don't make no junk. And God wants to give endlessly to you and only sees the perfection of you. Here, let's do a little worthiness test. Everyone take a deep breath in. Let it out. Great, you all passed. Breathing worthy. Don't make it any more complex than that. Don't let your mind take you out of that. And lastly, let's look at what's in our cup, right? Remember, the prodigal came back with a cup that was just ready to be filled with any small thing. Yet the good son had it all filled with this cynicism, this judgment, right? His inner critic becoming an outer critic. You know that voice, that judgy voice we're going to talk about today? You know, there's 7 types of inner critic, by the way. I know, one's bad enough. And we're going to talk about, because that voice will say, you're not worthy. Who are you? Remember when you screwed up before? Don't want to be too loud. Don't want to shine too bright. All right, we got to get that out of there. And we got to get that righteous judgment out of there. And we all have a little bit of bias hidden somewhere sometimes. That's our growing edge. So we're going to look at that now. I'm going to invite everyone just to take a breath in and just become still on the exhale. And just pay attention to your body, how you react or respond to some of these statements. How do you feel about unvaccinated people? Little something? Maybe not. How do you feel when you're walking down the street and someone passes you wearing a MAGA hat? A little something. Maybe in this room, a lot of something. Or maybe not. Or maybe it's a fight in hands. It goes both ways. Maybe you meet your child's new partner and they announce that their pronouns are they and them. What is this? A little something? Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe you go to a festival and you see two men holding hands and they kiss each other on the cheek. Little something? Maybe, maybe not. And I'm not saying this for us to shame ourselves, just to find our growing edge so we can have more heaven, more experience of peace, of oneness, of the high truth that we know is true in our world. I love what Robin Sharma says. He has a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Great title, huh? And he says, when you control your thoughts, you control your mind. When you control your mind, you control your life. And once you control your life, you can become the master of your destiny. We can steer our ship towards that heaven that we want to experience every day. So I pray that you remember to trust your guidance. If it's out of the blue, it's for you. And when we listen to it, your faith in it grows, and you hear it better. And let us remember, breathing worthy, that's it. Don't make it any more complex than that. You are a piece of spirits, the Most High, love and projection. And God don't make no joke. And lastly, I invite you to be receptive. Pay attention to what's in that volume of your mind and start to move out anything that is keeping you right now, right here, from your experience of heaven. Because here's what I know. No matter what happens in your life, the judgment by somebody, you lose the job, you get the partner, whatever it is, the partner goes away, you're in debt, you have a health challenge, whatever it is, I pray that you remember this one thing. Spirit is always with you, and all that it has is yours. Blessed be. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to do an affirmation. I think it's coming up. I have to look this way to see. And let us entertain you. No affirmation. Okay, let's just take this message into prayer. All right, as we just go into prayer now, just knowing that there's one power, one presence, one being, one life. And that life is Spirit's life, moving in and through and as us. Each an expression of the Most High love, the Most High power, the Most High wisdom. And I know that each and every person here and listening to my voice is now in divine connection, aware of the divine direction calling to you, that you step powerfully into it, and that you deeply know you're worthy in every situation of life, and that you continue to keep a mind that is high on love, on truth, on oneness, on principle, on heaven that is here, no matter what happens in that distant country. That peace, love, abundance, serenity is yours right now. And so I give thanks for remembering this high truth, that Spirit is always with us and all that it has is ours. Thank you, good. Thank you, God. Thank you, presence. And I release this word into the perfect activity of the divine that is moving in us, through us, and as us. And together we say, and so it is. Blessed be.
Thank you. That was lovely and inspirational. It's so nice to hear your words. Reverend Mitch will be doing a workshop later today. Sadly, I won't be able to be there, as I said, because I'll be gone, but I know it will be absolutely wonderful. So if you want, is there a sign-up sheet, or do people just show up?
Or just show up.
You just show up at this.
Just show up?
Yeah. While Anna's getting ready, when she comes, how much time do you want to give people to eat before you start your?
30 minutes good?
Okay, so 30 minutes is the time we end. So the people that are going to attend the workshop get to be in the food line first. All right?
There's incentive.
Being a speaker myself, I've learned the one cardinal rule is never get in the way of people having their food. Yeah, never, never, never. While Anna is handing out what she's handing out, I'll just move forward here on some of the other activities. This is birthday December, yes.
The workshop, what time was it?
It'll be 30 minutes after people start eating. So this is, let's take a quick moment to first of all say that this is the first Sunday of the month, and therefore it is Happy Birthday Sunday. And while Anna gets ready, should we do the Happy Birthday song, or are you all ready to go?
I want to sing Happy Birthday.
Okay.
'Cause I'm a Sagittarius.
Yes, exactly. So if you were born in December, would you stand so Anna can lead a Happy Birthday song too? It's all for Mark. Oh, Mark and Heidi.
There you go.
There we go.
Happy
and
birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. And many more.
And now I'll turn it over to Anna, who will give us our gift of music today.
All right. This is a song you all know. It's Good King Wenceslas, but I want to give a little bit of history in here because King Wenceslas is from Prague, Praha, the Czech Republic, Bohemia, where vampires were, and he lived in the 900s. And Wenceslas is means the good, Vaclav the Good, or whatever his name was. So he has a statue in Prague on the Great Bridge that goes into the old town, and it shows him bending down to open a gate at his feet to let the poor out of prison. And that's pretty cool. I like that guy. And when you look at the song, there's so much history in it. He went out to feed the poor in a snowstorm with his page, his liege, his peasant, his helper, his right-hand dude. And they get halfway there, and this poor guy's up on a hill, out there at the foot of a cliff. And the helper says, "Man, I'm freezing to death. I don't want to go any further." And the king says, "Well, hey," and he wasn't a king, he was a duke, the Duke of Bohemia. I'm the Duke of Earl. Do you remember that? So he says, "Just walk in my footsteps, you'll be fine." And he was in the very side that the saint had treaded. So Prague is on the great Amber Silk Road Trail, is one of the great trading rivers, the Vltava River. Let's see, get that. Vltava, V-L-T-A-V-A. One of the great north-south trading rivers of the European Baltic area. So how did this guy learn heat yoga? The Tibetans call it Jitum Mo yoga. How did he learn to control his body temperature? The 2002 Harvard Gazette did an article on the research into this Tibetan meditation practice where they put cold sheets in a 40-degree room, wet cold sheets on these monks, and they steamed the sheets dry, and they did 3 in a row with these guys. So this is an actual physiological accomplishment of the mind. They also noted that it had not ever been achieved by any Westerners. So there's a lot of culture in history in there. So he apparently learned how to do this. The Feast of Stephen, he went out on the Feast of Stephen. Stephen was martyred in 340 for being a Christian. And you think about the Christians, it's sort of a big step forward from the devils are everywhere, the forest is full of fear, and there's fear everywhere. I got a disease, I'm going to die. Everything is fear. So Christianity in the Middle Ages brought back language, it brought back science, a rudimentary science, and brought people out of fear of darkness. And so in that early forming period in the 300s, it was a big step forward for humanity. And Saint Vitus was the church that he founded, and he was another martyr, and that is now the great Cathedral of Vitus in Prague. And how many people have been to Prague? It's one of the great cities of the world. You have to go see it. So when we sing this, we know that St. Agnes's fountain was there in 900s. She was martyred in 284, 305, somewhere in there. And for resisting the patriarchy, she didn't want to marry. She wanted to be she wanted to study. In that time, I want to be an aesthetic. And then where could you do that? In a church. So she wanted to study, and because she wouldn't marry, if you're not going to marry, you might as well be a whore or die. So she was martyred. So there's a lot of history in here about the great transition of the Western world. So let's sing this song in the key of C, not too fast, so when we sing it, we remember all the history and how cool King Wenceslas really was.
Was cruel when a poor man
Thank you, Anna, not only for the music, but for the history. Delightful to hear. All right, as we get to the closing part of our service, we want to make sure to share our gifts. So James needs a couple of volunteers to help him out. There we go. Tiffany proving why she is member of the month. So as we'll have some music for our sharing of the gifts, and also we will first start out with our opening affirmation, or with our affirmation for our sharing of the gifts. I gratefully give from the fullness of my abundance, knowing my gift blesses this center, all in it and beyond, and so it is. And where you can send your money if you are not here or if you want to send it later. Sold it recently. I am grateful for the knowledge that everything is spirit. It is all holy. It is all of us, as are these donations and the love that has gone into these plates. And knowing that everything is for the good, that everything that is put here is going out into our community, into the nation, into the world, to create a world that we want, that we see, that we envision. And these small gifts are all part of it. For that I am immensely grateful, and I release these into the law of mind, saying, and so it is.
So it is.
Go over there to Susan. Okay, I need somebody to read our, by the way, if you would like to meet with a practitioner, as always, at the end of every service, you are welcome to meet with any of the practitioners. We will help you in whatever way we can. I need somebody to read our statement of inclusion. Do I have a volunteer? Oh, okay. Wait, we got a whole bunch of people. Okay. Kathy, let's bring you up, please. What was that?
I can read.
Yes, you can. Good for you.
Okay. We, the Eureka Center for Spiritual Living, are a community that celebrates diversity, fosters inclusion, champions inner work, and creates space for brave, vulnerable conversations. We are a community that honors the unique emanation of God that each person embodies and advocates for people, for human rights, and dignity for all. We are a community that blesses each other, sees sacredness in all life, remains learners and listeners so we may grow together, and understands that oneness is not sameness. We know our beloved community is revealed more fully when we love each other well.
And I'm assuming, Donna, will you lead us in our closing song?
Yes. Our closing song is now the peace song.
Oh, I'm so glad.
We've come back full circle, full circle, full circle. Please stand and join me. Touch a beloved if you wish.
With God.
morning. I want to remind you that there's food out there, and the people who are attending the workshop get to eat first. So it is 11:10. So at 11:40, you're supposed to be back in this room for the workshop.